Okay, good morning, guys. Can you hear me loud and clear? Sorry, a little bit late this morning. Just got caught up on a phone call. Okay, Andrew. Yeah, still a bit of a cough going too. Okay. All right, fantastic. We'll just rip into it then. We'll get started. Welcome to TradeSetup. It's just the overnight review. Not much happened actually. Not much to review, to be honest. The US was closed. They were closed for Labor Day holiday. Plus, I think the futures closed a bit early, around 2 a.m. our time. I think there was somewhere around there. So the E-mini and the Dow mini both closed early for the holiday. They just have a shortened session. Um, so yeah, not much to go after the European session finished. I think they finished around 1 a.m. or so. So the DAX and the FTSE futures will go right up to about 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., but not much after about the close of the US futures. So kind of a bland night. Our market, we'll just take a quick look at that. Where is it? So this is the 30 minutes, I think, still, isn't it? Yep. So that was at about 1:30 or so, just a spike down to the close, but pretty much went sideways into our close. But so we closed at 4 o'clock. You can see it was about here, somewhere around the 65, 52 mark. Did press higher through the European session, sort of touch on a lower high and then eased our way lower again. So really a nothing night. That was more just chop in the overnight session. Nothing to take heart of, I guess. But at the moment, we're just opening down. We're testing that 65.33. We did expect that the market will open slightly lower, but it's not really going from the US, equity session, which is more what we want to be looking for. So it could be relatively choppy today. I wouldn't expect too much because there's no US session to go by. And at the moment, that's what's driving the market. And also, it was at 11:30. We got some figures, maybe retail figures, and at 2:30 is a big one, the RBA announcement, whether they cut rates or not. And people will be watching the RBA statement to see what sort of support they may give the market going forward with further rate cuts. G'day, Bobby. So yeah, that's it. So the markets, I'll go down to the 5-minute chart. It'll probably be short and sweet today. There's not much to look at. I'll be interested to see if it just can, push through here where this gets supported and we just chop around, push back up to the high. It could be, like I said, much of a nothing day. It could get a bit more volatile coming in at 2:30 or 11:30 around the numbers. But at the moment, we've opened up, we hold the minor lower high, we press down into support. Don't be surprised if this washes out, but it was a bit of a washout at the previous low, and that was at the 130 mark. And that could be, don't forget, overnight. I mean, these figures, these washouts, don't put too much emphasis into them, purely because the market's thin overnight, and the US is closed, so it's even thinner than normal. So that the SPY futures generally overnight, they can have a couple of points spread easy, 5, 6 points, or 1 point. It just depends on what's happening. But generally a lot thinner in the overnight market than it is during the day session, let alone when the US is actually closed and there's nothing to go by. And after that, I think it was around there. I think Europe markets were just closing. The equity markets were just closing around that 1 o'clock mark. So I don't know. It's just probably stops triggered. They're just triggering it lower into this low, cleaned out that low. And don't forget, your retail is always going to have stops below. They sort of forget, the difference in thin markets, thick markets, all that sort of stuff, or volatile markets, and they'll have stops. So it would have just been cleaned out there on that spike lower, bounce straight back. We are ploughing into it. So if we can retest and start to hold a higher low, it could be worth a little punt on the upside. Again, that sort of trade, a buy, you want to see that contract. By contract, I mean a narrow range candle. Let's just see. Something like this, the market's going down, you want that narrow range, it's a higher low off this low, you want that sort of narrow range candle. You can see in here, I'll just draw that up. Something like that might give us a bit of a heads up that we're going to get some sort of bounce off here. That just means that there's indecision between buyers and sellers. And if it's off a key level, it's worth taking a break on the upside, stop below, seeing if it can press higher. But it just depends what sort of time that trade's going to kick off. If it does, if it's coming into 11:30, you probably keep clear because you don't know what the numbers are going to come out. Coming into 2:30, the same. You're probably better off just standing aside. Even if it works out in your favor, you never know what's going to happen. Markets can got a habit of spiking around and whipping around, especially on the Aussie dollar. Watch the Aussie dollar at 230. Coming to 230, they'll clean out everyone, both sides. You get stops triggered to go long, they'll get swept out, and then on the downside, turn around and sweep straight back down again, and then come back to where it started. So they do that on purpose, so just be wary of that. So yesterday, trades from yesterday, I think I mentioned it at 11:30. I've got to find where I traded. I think it was here. Yeah, so the market will basically biased down. Oh, well, I was biased down anyway. The market's pressed down, it's come back up. It did wash out. You got this little spike high, but essentially there was a bit of an offer zone through this level around the 85.73. So you're looking for those offer zones where you expect some sort of action to press lower if you bias down, because the overall structure is look like it, especially with this solid move down, which took out this level. That's a key factor to take note of. We pressed down, we washed out a lot of these, the anchor level for this trend up, and that trend up was right from, off this support. So that big leg up, we washed it out, that moved down. So you're wanting to be sitting on the short side just for the near term, because we might get that secondary leg lower, which we did exactly that later on in the day. So you're looking for that offer zone where you expect some sort of reaction, and in this case, for a reaction lower. So I was looking at something about here. I thought maybe that's nice and early. But this didn't play out. I think I had the order there ready to go. It just didn't happen. But the thing is, this candle was quite wide, showing less indecision and more action, if that makes sense. So when it's a bit wide, it means that buyers are pushing up, sellers are pushing it down. There's still a fight going on. When we got up here, back up towards sort of these highs in the zone, you see this red candle here. I think I went short on the push down through there. Yeah, I went short just in here. Problem is it stalled. I was expecting it to come down to, it was only a 5-point trade, but I think it could have been, I was expecting more. So around 68, 69. I was expecting potentially to go back down and test at least down to that support zone, maybe 50 to 55, which would have made it a 10 to 15 point trade. Instead, you just started stalling around here, and I just took it off, exited, which was the right thing to do. It's turned around and plowed back up. Now, this would have been the prime zone, because we come straight back into that zone. You can see it went through a bit more, so all it's really doing is cleaning out this previous high. So the market's going to clean it out, but it's going to be in a zone of an offer zone. It's going to sort of press up like it did here, wash out the previous high, and then all the bulls are going to be piling in. You've got a key high or low here. They're going to go, oh yeah, up we go. But it's just coming back into that offer zone where it can press lower. And you can see there, once this market started heading south, probably the same style of trade, which I just mentioned. Well, here, let's just do that a bit better. Off that candle, played out here, except you probably, maybe with this whip up, you would have got stopped. I think I was a bit more concerned here, because you got 1, 2, 3. You could have just pulled back and gone. So at this stage, I think I was looking at it, but I didn't trade it. I was looking for some sort of lower high, just to bring in some more sellers, and then see what plays out. And that would have been probably with the break of this low, 65.71. And I think with that, I was looking at risk above that candle, not way up here, because if it's going to stop down and push back up and stop me out here, it's more than likely going to take out that high. So this is ever so slightly, if you can see, only a few candles, minor double top, followed by a minor lower high. Lower high is actually here. No, that's not really good, is it? That's your, oh God, this won't. That's essentially a lower high. Pressing down, so you got the market's pressed down. It's tried to go up. Bulls have started to try to push it up again. It's rejected, and it started pressing down again. So you got this sort of move down continuation. That's what you're looking for. Who knew it was going to play out like this? So realistically, if you're just trading, what I aim to do is just put the stop behind the most recent candle. So when it's forming this candle, stops up here. When it's forming this next candle, you move your stop down, and so on to the highs, to the highs, to the highs. You probably would have got nabbed somewhere around, well, here, which you can see that was quite a handy little trade. G'day, Laurent. Hi, mate. I saw your message, Laurent, on the forum about did I get that short. We're just discussing that now, and no, I didn't. I got a short in here for 5 points and then missed it. I was actually on. What I forgot to say is at this stage through here, so I shorted it in here, but at the same time I took it off, it was probably setting up for a bit of a long. And if you can see that, just look at this. This is what we're looking at. This is only a real minor scale. So this is more scalping, but it's building off the same premises we always trade: W patterns, M patterns, all that sort of stuff. Um, so here you've got the markets pressed down. You think it's basically pressed back up, pressed back down, and then took off. So at this stage, if you had to stop just to buy through there with your stop below, your exit stop below, you've got a positive trade which got you out somewhere around here. So again, that would have probably been 5 to 10 points if you could have followed it up there. Or at least back up to the highs. There was another 5 or 6 points in that, I think. So yeah, I missed it too, mate. Oh, I don't know what I was doing about there. I think it was coming at 12 o'clock. I don't know. I was probably on the phone. I was doing all other stuff. So I tend to stop looking at it much past about 11:30, 12, which is about there. I don't stop. Look, I keep an eye on it, but I don't focus too much on it. It's more the opens. So yeah, can you see? Even though I had a short on there, which turned out alright, I was probably obviously early in hindsight. There was a long there also. You took it up and then stopping yourself out just before this stared up on the short side. So Lauren, what we're saying is just the market's pushed down, it's popped back up. So again, you've got, let's just draw that. So the market's pressed up, down, up, down. So you've got that M pattern. Does that make sense? So you got W and M patterns as sort of the structure they're looking for to trade off intraday anyway. And that played out beautifully. Before you stopped here, I wouldn't really. I mean, this for me is getting too late in the session. The actions happened on the downside. So here, if you got the bulk of the market that was shorting through here or shorting off this zone up here, I would have found it a tad hard to start to buy down through those lows because it could easily reacted and it could have taken off. Could have been news driven. Could have been anything. So to be buying around here, it's probably a bit too aggressive or risky, and you'd be on. From looking at this, you were on the wrong side of the market for sure. So who's to know? I mean, you could have got lucky if you did buy it up there. Great, but that's not the way to trade, I guess. Does that make sense? Lunchtime. It does not matter. The PA. What do you mean by PA? All right, just took that in. Oh, price action. Yeah, yeah, you can. I think they can use it. I mean, if they're loading up here, for instance, they're loading up on short. They're sort of, this is your offer zone up here, short. They're shorting here. Maybe took some off, shorted, reshorted on the way back up here. Loading some shorts. Don't forget they also, a lot of the bigger boys will know if they're shorting in there, you're shorting through uh, generally a thinner market over lunch, and they can get it to move more, which it did. That stopped at around 1:15. So it was pretty much over the lunchtime session. So they can get to trigger the market down quite easily if that's what they're looking for. So yeah, you can trust it, but it just doesn't seem to happen as often. I just tend to get busy myself. I mean, probably having lunch myself. So if that makes sense. So yeah, the market at the moment still, you can see it's choppy. Opened up, whipped down to support, bounced straight back up. So we have reacted up. Again, I'm probably just going to step aside today. I don't think I'll be doing too much today. It's probably not worth it, to be honest. With the announcement 11:30, so you've got about an hour and a half. If you can't get anything out there, it's probably, now what is it? Just let me see. 11:30 today, retail sales and current account. So a couple of big numbers that can easily move that market at 11:30. So you don't really want to be long or short coming into that number intraday anyway, and you probably don't really want to be at 2:30. So there's two bigger numbers. You probably just get the market will, days like this. They know there'll be people trading, but not really focusing on them. They can whip around, just clean out people left, right, and centre. So you're better off just to step aside. And the US was closed last night, so I wouldn't expect too much anyway. Let's just see where the ASX is at the moment. It's open down. It seems to be bouncing back a bit. This is a 5-minute chart, so we've got the open was at 10. Opened up, so it was holding okay, and then yeah, it's probably around the S mark. We said the S's. There's quite a big there's quite a load of stocks that start with S or around that mark at the end of the alphabet. Open about 8 past or so, 8 past 10, and the market could really gap down quite easily. So yeah, it did that. It's gapped down. It's down only 8 points for 5 points at the moment. So it is coming back again, like we can see on the on the SPY. Yeah, SPY's bouncing back here. All right, so that's probably about it. Like I said, I'm not doing too much. I wouldn't be doing too much intraday at the moment. I think it's probably time just to take stock, go over some charts even. Take some time to go over some charts, draw up some, actually this is what I drew up as a matter of interest last night. So there's trades I just described. I'll sit in the habit of, what was that, 2nd and 9th, of doing something like that. Mark it up, put my bias for the day, just so I want to, and this is more for my own personal development, mark up the trades that I did do and the reasoning, and then just mark up the trades that maybe I've missed, whether I've missed it because I didn't see it or whether I missed it because I just wasn't there. But it's always worth marking it up, and it's worth making a note too. If you mark it up and you didn't trade it because you weren't certain, it's worth marking it up and marking and sort of putting a few notes on there why, what you were thinking. You know, a few just basic notes on there. What were you thinking at that time? Because then you can go back on it. After the fact and just start assessing, are you looking at something wrong or are you looking at something right? You just didn't pick at that time or what it was. And then if you're making some big glaring mistakes consistently, you can start to work on those. So I think taking snapshots of your charts is a really good idea. So that's just from the short yesterday. Was looking at that buy, just didn't put it on, and then missed this one completely. So made some money, but nothing much. Could have been a good day. I mean, even though it was a choppy day, there was something to be had. Say you got the short on there, only 4 to 5 points, I think. Say there's another 5 you could have got out there. That's 10. And just say you did short that there without, you had your stop, your risk was fine. That was 15. Say 15, so that's a 20, was it? 5, 10, 25 points on the SPY. That's 500, 625 per contract. So not a bad little effort. All right, guys, let's just see. Well, that's probably about it. Well, actually, if you want, I can just quickly go over. This is, say, Wall Street, even though the CFD's been trading, it didn't do much. They'll be waiting to see what happens in the US. I think markets would generally be quiet because they've got nothing much to go on. But we'll see how that goes. S&P, it's still holding below that 2940. What's the DAX? And we're back below that key resistance zone at 26.4 on the Dow. Doesn't mean too much just yet. We'll see if this spaces out here and starts to lift again. It could go straight up through that high tonight, just depending on what everyone's thinking on how they're situated. DAX, that looks pretty much primed. It's sitting on top of the MAs. Looks like it could pop easily. But again, they'll be chopping around, waiting to see what sort of direction the US gives them. And the FTSE, that was actually buoyant last night. But again, that's at the top end of that range that's been in since, what is that, 6th? Start of August? About the start of August. It's been chopping around since the sell-off. Been chopping around. So not much on there. And gold seems stuck between 15.20, and it did bounce last night, which is kind of unusual. But it's probably in the thin market overnight. Gold actually pushed up. There's nothing much to go off. Nothing much happened, and it was all basically on the back of the tariffs. The tariffs, they implemented tariffs on the tit-for-tat tariffs on Sunday. Everyone knew it was coming, so it wasn't new to the market. But gold still bounced a bit. I think it was more probably a clean out of these shorts, and it just seems content to sit between these two zones. Lower end at 15, say 20 in, and the top end at around 15.30. Hasn't really retested that. Potentially that's a lower high, but we'll see if it squeezes and holds a higher low and then pops, and see if that bullishness continue. The trend is still well and truly up. Key support at 14.92. This is on the CFD. I'm not sure what it is on the futures, by the way. It's popped up. We've consolidated. One, retest the highs, deeper correction. So it is still on the hourly chart bullish action. For me, it's that this sort of action lower, even though it's been pressured a bit, is conducive to bullish action overall longer term, because that's more correcting this leg up. And if it's correcting that leg up, it's ready to launch again, potentially launch again. But we'll see. HZN. What's HZN? Is that the stock you're looking at, Vin? Horizon Oil. Oh, that looks all right, mate. Thanks for that heads up. Looks really good. Anything you know that we don't? Keep an eye on that one, by the way, guys. It looks not too bad. Enter. Nice. Excuse me. All right, guys, we'll probably call it quits there. Thanks for joining me. We'll see. Just like I said, be careful around 11:30 and 2:30. Remember the numbers are out if you're intraday. Otherwise, you probably get a bit of a choppy, quiet market today. Wouldn't expect too much. I mean, saying that, we might get a rally, a hard rally, or a sharp fall. We'll just have to see. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out today, and then see what the US does tonight. We could have a fun day tomorrow or another boring day, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, guys, enjoy your day. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye.